My manager calls me into a one-on-one on Friday and says, "Great news. We are promoting you to senior project lead." I asked about the compensation adjustment, and he literally did a double take. He told me that with the current market climate, they can't do raises right now. I'm going to say no to this because my well-being, my health, my mental health is more important than taking on this extra work that I'm not actually being compensated for. That's okay to do. Getting a promotion shouldn't feel like just another burden or a check to check off your checklist. It should feel like a true achievement. Welcome back to Dear Career. Remember, this is a podcast for the women who are doing everything right and still feel invisible. I'm Tiana, and I'm here for us to talk about what it actually takes to feel confident enough to ask for the career and the life that you deserve. Okay, so today we are doing a little bit of a new chapter, and we are getting into what I'm calling the Reddit files. Okay, I've been asked to do this, and it was a great request. I think something I've never done before, but I thought this was perfect. I've seen this before on other channels and other platforms. And for a podcast, I thought it might be good to go over it. And then I think I might do a little bit of a deeper dive on my actual YouTube channel. But for today, I really wanted to take just one discussion that I'm seeing on Reddit and go into a little bit more of a deep dive. The research states that 8 in 10 women feel disadvantaged in the promotion process, and over half feel less motivated to chase the next title than they did 2 years ago. Today, let's dig a little bit deeper into that promotion mindset and reframe it a little bit. This piece of what promotions is meant to do when you really achieve a promotion and feel good about it and feel recognized and honored, and that doesn't happen, there's something that's missing in that process. So instead of feeling like I don't want it anymore, how can we reframe that and think a little bit more about potentially grieving what happened versus feeling like you're defeated? How can we put some action to what you're actually feeling? So I have an example. Now we're going to dig into, I found one Reddit post that was just recent. It was just posted 4 days ago. And I might actually reply back to this because I think the story that I'm going to read you has been something I have heard multiple times. This is something that I've experienced as an HR director. I've experienced it in big companies. I've experienced it in small companies in the startup world. And this person seems to be working in maybe more of a startup environment. So I know that this example is such a real thing. And for women, this is such a perfect example of what ends up happening and how you can combat this. Let's kind of put this into perspective and bring in some reality to it so that way it doesn't feel like you're giving up. A promotion is ultimately a good thing, and there's a lot of value that can come of that. And so you should be celebrating that experience and the achievement that you actually achieved versus feeling like it was such a loss. So let's dig into the story and we'll break it all down. Okay, so this Reddit user has posted the post and they say, "How am I supposed to react to a promotion that adds 20 hours a week but $0 to my paycheck?" Such a common question, actually. I've seen this multiple times in my career. And believe it or not, I do have some answers to this. So let's get into the story. So the Reddit user posts, so I've been grinding at this tech firm for 2 years. Always the first one in, last one out. My manager calls me into a one-on-one on Friday and says, "Great news. We are promoting you to senior project lead." I was actually excited for about 30 seconds. I asked about the compensation adjustment, and he literally did a double take. He told me that with the current market climate, they can't do raises right now. But the title change is a huge investment in my future career. Apparently, being a senior lead means I now have to manage 3 juniors and handle the client reporting that my boss used to do. It is just absolutely insulting. They expect me to be grateful for the privilege of doing more work for the exact same paycheck. I should have known something was up when they started talking about internal growth opportunities during the last all hands meeting. It is likely they are dangling a carrot, but the carrot is just a picture of a carrot. The kicker is that they already announced on the company Slack. Now everyone is congratulating me, and I'm just sitting here realizing I just volunteered for a massive workload increase without getting a dime more. It feels like I'm being punished for being good at my job. Why is this even a thing? I'm so sorry to this user. Like I said, I will respond to this post because I've seen this multiple times now. This is the age-old story of the higher performer not necessarily gets the carrot, but the higher performer gets more work. In tech startup environment, the better performers actually, the way that they get rewarded a lot of times is by getting more work. And that's not necessarily a good thing. It sometimes ends up turning into burnout. It can look like an increase in workload. It can look like an increase in overall work, overall responsibilities, but it does not always look like an increase in pay. Now, for this user, there is something about this that I really do believe is unacceptable. When you change somebody's scope of work from being an individual contributor where they do not have any direct reports to all of a sudden being a true manager and of direct reports, now their scope of responsibilities has absolutely changed. So if this user, if they have not yet signed any paperwork, I would encourage them to push back. I'm hoping that they have everything in writing. That's always going to be something that I'm going to encourage. But this role is now completely different, which means if it is different, the compensation does need to be looked at differently. There is going to be a market adjustment that might need to be done for this person. Market pay for the role may look different, and that would be justified for a compensation adjustment depending on where they live. If there's anybody else doing the role or a similar role to them, there may need to be an equity adjustment depending on if this user is male or female. Are they making the same amount of money as somebody in a similar role doing similar things? If there's anybody else who's also considered a senior lead, are they making the same amount? So that's something to also consider. And advocating for yourself when it comes to compensation is really important. Getting a promotion shouldn't feel like just another burden or a check to check off your checklist. It should feel like a true achievement, a level up. It should feel like you have support, you have the resources, you are going to be able to effectively do your job at the level of expectations that the organization has for you. So if they're asking you to perform at a high level, yet they're giving you no resources, how are you supposed to do that job? That's something to push back on. I think those catchphrases of using terms like huge investment or internal growth opportunities to really hook in someone to retain them isn't a strategy. It doesn't help keep talent. It can ultimately drive them away if it's an empty promise. Organizations that dangle this so-called carrot or this bring this language in with nothing that holds weight to it, it's empty words. It's not really supported by actual action from the organization. So what ends up happening is employees lose trust with the organization that they're really truly investing in their future. And these so-called internal growth opportunities don't look like growth opportunities. There's no pathways. The employee can't trust that there is a future growth opportunity for them, because anytime a growth opportunity comes up, all they're going to think is that I'm going to get more work for a little pay. And what ends up happening is the employees just get tired, burnt out, overworked, overloaded, and then they leave. So it's not a retention strategy. It's not something that actually works, and it shows very little care for the employee. With that being said, something I want to acknowledge for this person, if they were in front of me today, I would ask them, what did they think a promotion was going to look like for them? It sounds like, from what I'm hearing, it sounds like it would have been tied to money. But in that, I also want to know, well, what does that mean to you? Really trying to understand the value, connecting this money piece to the value of their work, and how do those things balance out and how do those equate? And if the money piece is really what would have showed them value, because if they were to get the money that they wanted, and I would ask this to you as a listener, if you were to get the money that you wanted from this promotion, would ultimately that make you feel better? Would you feel like all of your problems are going away? Would you feel like everything has been resolved? I can't answer that question. You'd have to answer that question for yourself. But I'd be very curious for you to sit with that and think about that. Now, if the answer is no, then I need you to really sit with that and really understand, well, what is the value here? What is important for you? Now, this user said the kicker is that they already announced it on the company Slack. Now everyone is congratulating me, and I'm just sitting here realizing I just volunteered for a massive workload increase without getting a dime more. I'm not sure. This is just a Reddit user, so I don't know if they actually got anything in writing. I would be curious about that because it's okay to take a moment for yourself and grieve that opportunity and say, okay, no thanks. I don't think I can take this on because that's not really what I envisioned for myself. What's more important to me is that I get fully recognized through compensation value versus, especially because this person says they have shown up. What I'm hearing is that they have shown up for 2 years. First one in, last one out. They are committed. They are showing up on time. They're being a responsible employee. And I don't know that they're hearing that. I don't know that's something that they're being acknowledged for and they're being recognized for. So if they're not being recognized in this way for the work that they're being done, are they being recognized by their manager? Are they being recognized with gratitude? Are they like, what is happening to keep this person besides giving them an empty promise? I don't really know. It doesn't sound like much. But what I would say is it's okay to, if this isn't something that's in writing, because I don't know that they signed off on anything, it's okay to grieve this promotion if it's not exactly what you wanted, to say, okay, no thanks, if that's not something that you feel aligned to. Now, this is totally up to this user. If this user feels so strongly about this and wants to explore other opportunities, they are more than welcome. 2 years in a startup is no laughing matter. It's no joke. 2 years in a startup is like, 4, 5 years in another company. 2 years is a long time in startup world. So I can imagine they are very tired and have really stayed committed. And to step up and manage 3 junior people, now, I don't know if they're actually truly managing. Sometimes what happens, and this is why I would say get this in writing, is because sometimes what happens is there ends up being what they call this dotted line, where there's like these supervision responsibilities, but the manager is still responsible for managing the employees and does all the performance reviews and does the actual work, but they're not truly being managed. They're just overseeing, and then they have the more junior person who's doing the day-to-day so-called managing of the work. But if you are not resourced for that and don't have the skills, haven't had training, have never managed somebody before, how are you being set up for success in that case? I mean, I don't know. Sometimes these are set up as a little bit of a stepping stone, where they set this up as a way to put you on the path to being a manager, to test the waters before true management comes in. And it's a little bit of like a, let's test you out for a management role. Let's give you some responsibilities, but you're going to be closely monitored. We're going to train you and get you ready for that, but it's not full on managing. So it could be that kind of responsibility. I don't know. But even with that, even if it's a small bump, that would still be something that I think could go a long way with this user. So it's unfortunate that the company hasn't done that for them. Getting to a place where you can say, no, I am actually choosing this other way or going this other direction to put myself first, or I'm going to say no to this because my well-being, my health, my mental health is more important than taking on this extra work that I'm not actually being compensated for. That's more important. That's okay to do, because at the end of the day, maybe your values are more about your family. Maybe your values are more about being valued, being recognized. Maybe your values are more about having that work-life balance. Maybe your values are more about traveling, and taking on that extra 20 hours isn't something that you're willing to do. So really sit and think with it, and it's okay. It doesn't mean you're giving up if you decide to go in a different direction or say no when you don't feel like you're being monetized or accurately rewarded for your contributions. So I just want to make sure that I am putting that out there, making sure you're aware of that, reminding you, because that is what I'm here to do. I'm here to remind you of things like that and showing you a live example, because this was just posted 4 days ago. So this is a fresh example, but also I see this kind of thing all the time. So I know that this is a pretty common example. Anyway, that's it for this episode of Dear Career. If you've got questions of your own, I want to hear it. I'll drop the link to the call-in below, and I'll make sure it's in the show notes. So that way you can leave me a message and you might hear it on our next episode. Take care of yourself and share this with anyone if you think it might help them if they're going through something similar. But I'll see you in the next one. Bye.